The Green Bay Packers had a chance to be win and in week 18. And so what did they do? They go out and they put a beatdown on the Minnesota Vikings. It was the offense. It was the defense. It was an ass kicking of New Year's Eve proportions. Happy New Year. Let's go live on YouTube. This is our last Locked On Packers of 2023, and it comes as a Victory Monday.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You were Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you, 2024 and beyond, baby. This episode brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for that first deposit match up to $100. When the game kicked off Sunday night, the Green Bay Packers knew what they had to do. Beat the Minnesota Vikings, and you have a chance in week 18 at home against a division rival to win and get into the postseason. The Seattle Seahawks did their job by losing. The Pittsburgh Steelers did their job by going in and beating Seattle. And the Green Bay Packers just had to go beat a fourth-string rookie quarterback on the road on a team that has had good success against them in the Matt LaFleur era, even going back before that, the Mike Zimmer era, certainly. And it was a coin flip game. Like the Vikings were favorites for most of the week. It flipped some places, not every place. FanDuel still had the Packers as underdogs at the end. But the Green Bay Packers on offense came out and set the tone right away. They went 3-and-out. I understand that, but they wanted the ball. They had a plan that they knew they could execute. And this was where the evolution of this team, like the defense, we'll get to the defense because the defense showed up and played a really good game, and we have to acknowledge that, and we will. But offensively, the ceiling of this team is all based on what Jordan Love can do with this offense. And he came out from the start. I understand it was not, the cleanest start to the game. But this was the game the first time around, Packers Vikings, where you went, okay, I don't know if Jordan Love is it. Second half, started to make some throws, but that first game you went, I don't know. The sim pressures got him. The all-out pressures got him. The drop eights got him. He just didn't seem to be quite understanding what was happening around him in that first game. On Sunday night, it was night and day. Nothing rattled him. Nothing fazed him, in complete control of everything that was happening. Understood. Okay, if they show pressure and drop out, I'm going to stay calm. I'm going to trust my protection. We've got this blocked up, and I'm going to make accurate throws. And there were a couple throws. I mean, the Packers had 470 yards of offense against the number 5th defense in the league by DVOA. Almost 500 yards of offense against one of the best defenses in football, 6.4 yards per play. And some of that came at the end when you're not actually trying to win, the kneels, those kinds of things. Jordan Love, 24 of 33 for 256, 3 touchdowns through the air, another on the ground. This was an ass kicking. That's what this was. That's what this was. 33-10, the final. And the Packers now control their own destiny. And to me, this puts a bow on the offensive development this season. Because the Vikings game was where everyone went, it's time to pack it in. They lose. They're 2-5. They end up making the Rasul Douglas trade, which I hated at the time and still hate. But it felt like a different team. And this offense, you lose Christian Watson. You lose Dontavian Wicks. You lose Jayden Reed in the game. Jayden Reed, they couldn't cover Jayden Reed. They said, we have Jayden Reed at home. His name's Bo Melton. 6 catches for $105 and a touchdown. They couldn't cover Bo Melton. Sean Clifford even hit Bo Melton. And it could have been even bigger if he could make the play on 4th and 1. The Packers, they scored 33 points, and it could have been 43. It could have been 50 if we're being serious about it. Against one of, and I can't stress this enough, against one of the best defenses in the league in a must-win game on the road. I don't care who's playing quarterback for the other team. Go out, and we said this on the show last week. It has to be a game that your offense wins. Well, guess what? Your offense won it. And I understand, you have whatever happens on the other side. 33 points against one of the best defenses in football on the road in a de facto playoff game without your number one receiver, your number one tight end. I say this every week. Your all-pro left tackle, maybe your most consistent outside receiver. You lose your most dynamic and consistent playmaker other than Aaron Jones in this game, who's already tearing up the Vikings. Jayden Reed was spectacular in this football game. The 33-yard touchdown was basically the clincher. At that point, it became obvious. And I'm glad the accidental hero called this out in the chat on YouTube. Luke Braun on this show, and I'm going to give him credit, he called it out on our crossover Thursday. It's why those crossovers are so valuable. Teams found something against this Vikings defense. And Luke was saying that this defense has been solved. If you can protect, if you can get the right guys in coverage, in protection, there are holes in the coverage. And the Packers, it was clear they had a plan from the get-go. And it just felt, I know they went 3 and out, but it felt, taking the ball to start, it just felt like the Packers went into this game confident that they could attack this defense that had been beguiling and bedeviling teams all season. And one of the keys, in addition to what Jordan Love did and the full command that he displayed of this offense, Aaron Jones is just a different element. And I loved what he told the broadcast team in the production meetings, and that was, I can take this team to another level offensively. That is not what you hear generally from Aaron Jones. That's not how Aaron Jones talks. That's not how he speaks of himself. He is a humble, I'm just here to help this team win and do everything I can kind of guy. And for him to say, I can take this team to the next level, I love to hear that. I love to hear a guy who is normally so team-oriented say, I. There's no I in team, but there is an I in win. And one of the huge reasons that this team won was Aaron Jones. 20 carries for 120. Did he hit the anytime touchdown number that we gave out? No, but he is, when he's been healthy, the best performances of the Packers offense this season, he has been the key cog. And it's not even when such and such running back runs 20 times, the Packers win. No, it's not that. When he is full go, because if they have to throw, they'll throw it to Aaron Jones. But when he's full go, fully healthy, and that's probably only happened, 5-6 times this season. This team is a walking 30-point game because Jordan Love is that guy. Matt LaFleur is that guy, and they have found the Scotch tape to make this all work. And I think the perfect play is the Bo Melton touchdown. You get pre-snap motion. You win with alignment and formation. You just beat the leverage. But there's a little bit of pressure. The Vikings try and create a little havoc. So Jordan Love off one foot has to sidearm sling a perfect throw to a no-name receiver because that's all this has on this team right now. And that is the perfect encapsulation of what this season has been. No Christian Watson, no David Bakhtiari. You got Luke Musgrave hurt. Tucker Kraft comes out and has a big game. Even with Romeo Doubs dropping a couple passes, even with Dontavian Wicks out. Because Matt LaFleur is that good, because Jordan Love is that good, and because you have enough of these no-name receivers, you can make this all work. And now you can go beat a Bears team that, for all the problems that you want to have with Joe Barry, they have had Justin Fields in absolute clamps over the course of the last 3 seasons or 2 seasons plus, I suppose. And so now you have an opportunity to win and get in just like you did last year. To even be in that position, and we'll talk about that at the end, is a remarkable development in this season. And the offensive evolution here is, to me, not just the story of this game, but the story of this season. We're going to talk about the defense, which has also been a pretty big story so far this season, in just a second here on our live Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is easy. Pick a couple players and their projected stat lines. Projected by PrizePicks. You don't have to do it. PrizePicks does it. And if you decide they're going to produce more or less than that stat projection, you can win up to 25 times your money. That's right. You can put $10 in and get $250 if you play your cards right. Or I guess I should say if you play your players right. So Bears week, you can take DJ Moore, take Justin Fields, you can take Jordan Love. Put those 3 together. You've got a lineup. If they hit that more or less than their projections, you can win up to 25 times your money, depending on who you put in that lineup. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com with the code LockedOnNFL. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. We have to talk about the defense. And I know you might not want to. And I know there are going to be some people who immediately jump to, well, I hope this doesn't mean that, Joe Barry is going to be back. Chris Collinsworth, I can't remember the last time I heard any broadcast partner, much less NBC and Chris Collinsworth say, I think it's still better than not chance that he gets fired. I can't believe he said that. So, look, I think that's still going to happen. But 81 first half yards. And I understand, and our pal Jen Curtin pointed out, I talked up this defense after what happened against Brett Rippon and the backup quarterback there. But what they did got Brett Rippon basically kicked out of the NFL. That's how good the defense played. It is important for us to recognize that coming into this game, there were a lot of people who were like, it doesn't matter who is playing quarterback for the Vikings. They're still going to torch the Packers. And the reason that they were saying that is because over the last few weeks, it hadn't mattered who was playing quarterback. They still torched the Packers. The Panthers on Sunday got goose-egged. They scored nada. They scored 30 against the Packers. The Bucs had 0 until midway through the fourth quarter. They wound up with 13. They cruised past 30 against the Packers 2 weeks ago. And, a team like the Falcons, their offense has never looked better than it did in the fourth quarter against the Packers in week 2. So let's understand what bad quarterbacks have done to the Packers in the past. They have had their success. Now, let's be charitable to Baker Mayfield. He's not a bad quarterback. But Jaren Hall, 5 of 10 for 67 and a pick. Even Nick Mullins, who Chris Collinsworth, I thought was gonna have a moment live on air talking about, Nick Mullins. 13 of 22 for 133. He does have the touchdown, but also some misses, some pressure. This Packers front, and this is the key. When the Packers pass rush plays well, this defense can do whatever it needs to do. They handled a very good Vikings, particularly on the edges. Christian Darrisaw, Preston Smith worked Christian Darrisaw in this game. The final numbers are going to say 4 sacks, but 14 quarterback hits. Preston Smith had 3 plus a sack fumble. Quay Walker, Rashawn Gary, Devontae Wyatt all had 2. Keyshawn Nixon with a nickel pressure. I thought Joe Barry called a nice game. Mixed coverages well, mixed pressures well. I understand it's a backup. But this was the kind of game that you could have played against Tommy DeVito. And now you wouldn't be worried about what's going to happen against the Bears. Or maybe you'd be playing for the 6th seed rather than fighting for scraps at the 7th seed. That's not what happened. So we have to put this game into some perspective. Given what the expectations were, no Jair Alexander, no Devondre Campbell, no Eric Stokes. He's on IR. We haven't talked about that since we've been out here. It's time to just be done with Eric Stokes, I think, in terms of counting on him for the future. That's a bummer. All of this stuff with Jair Alexander doesn't seem like, there was some speculation. Oh, could he be traded? And then we have the reporting from the Athletic, Diana Rossini. Probably not. The cost makes it prohibitive. $27 million in dead cap. They're just not going to do it. But when you get these kind of performances, it does make you wonder, why can't they do this with their healthy guys? Why can't you do this with Jair Alexander and Eric Stokes? Because Corey Ballantyne has the game of his life in this game. And I thought Chris Collinsworth made a great point. That early shot that they took to Jefferson that Ballantyne knocked away, it was a bang play. And if he creates the contact, Ballantyne, a half a second earlier, he probably gets called for DPI. But he waits, he stays patient, he doesn't panic, and you get a pass breakup. They didn't play afraid. They did not play afraid of the Minnesota Vikings. And you can't, in the NFL, play afraid and play effective. You just can't do it. And the Packers too often have played afraid. They've been so worried about getting beat. They beat themselves by plan, by philosophy. And they didn't in this game. But they also just won their individual matchups. The front was excellent. You've got not just Preston Smith, Kenny Clark just owns the Vikings, was up in the face of the passer constantly, regardless of who the passer was. And yeah, they got some stuff in the run game. That's okay. That's okay. Talking about 4 yards a carry. That's not going to kill you. 10 carries for 40 yards from Ty Chandler. You will live. 144 passing yards. Again, I don't care who. 211 yards against any team is a good day. Does that mean that they're all of a sudden going to be great? No. They had a good day. And this is what I think Matt LaFleur's point is when he says, we've seen this team play well. They played well in this game. I understand all of the qualifiers. They played well. You lose Isaiah McDuffie in the middle of the game. You're now having to play Eric Wilson, who's backups to the backups. You're already on backups to the backups with your corners. You're cycling in safeties. You're going to some 3 safety looks, which I liked. You had Anthony Johnson Jr. with a key breakup on Justin Jefferson when the Vikings had a chance to make it interesting, to get a touchdown. They could have made it a 2-score game. Could have been 33-17 on 4th down. Anthony Johnson Jr. comes in and diving knocks the ball away from Nick Mullins, or from Justin Jefferson. From Justin Jefferson. It's not just nobody. It's Justin Jefferson, man. So are all the problems solved? No. Did they get a really nice performance in a crucial spot against a division opponent that well? Did they even throw at Carrington Valentine? They just went after Valentine all night, and it didn't matter because he played really well. That is big for the confidence of this team moving forward, because now you feel like, okay, now get Jair Alexander back. Hopefully this energizes him. This focuses him. And now you have Valentine, you have Stokes. You have Valentine, you have Alexander. If you need to go to dime, you have Valentine. Keyshawn Nixon played a nice game in the slot in this one. Your pass rush is on a little bit of a heater. And you're playing against a team that, even without Aaron Rodgers, you've owned. Go win, get in the postseason, and sort it all out from there. That's the goal, and that's what they've done. We're going to talk about the playoffs. Playoffs? No, now we get to talk about it. We're not going to not talk about the playoffs because now it's right in front of them. The Packers play the Bears in what is essentially a playoff game for them coming up at Lambeau Field. It's the national game. I don't know. It's on CBS. We're going to talk about it in just a second here on Locked On Packers. Today's episode of Locked On Packers brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guarantee when you place a $5 money line bet. $5 bet. And I had the Packers on the money line. I had a banner day with our friends at FanDuel. And this Packers game, 7.5. I bet the under on 7.5. And so if the Packers beat the Bears, that bet cashes, and it's pretty good. The Packers 3.5-point favorites at home on Sunday afternoon. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. It's almost basketball season. Same game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. It's all there for you. FanDuel.com/lockedon. $5. Get you $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's Packers. It's Bears. It's for the playoffs. And for, whatever sour taste was left in your mouth after Week 18 last year, when the Packers had the opportunity against the Lions, Week 18, Lambeau Field, we'd seen that movie before with Aaron Rodgers. He was automatic. We knew that was a win. They were going to go to the playoffs, and they were playing well. That defense was playing well. They had a chance to go be dangerous. And they had nothing. They had nothing. They didn't execute. They played tight. The offense was terrible. And this was a game to me where you could have just, sleptwalked. Oh, it's a backup quarterback. We'll see. But the beauty of knowing Joe Barry is your defensive coordinator is the offense can't sleepwalk. You got to go out and you got to score 30. Doesn't matter. Bryce Young, doesn't matter. Baker Mayfield, doesn't matter. Tommy DeVito, Doesn't matter Nick Mullins, Jaren Hall, Josh Dobbs. It doesn't matter who the guy is. You got to go out and you have to perform offensively. Now, defensively, we know what the pressure is. But this common opponent thing matters. The Packers against the Lions, they had a plan, and Joe Barry has had good plans. Joe Barry has had good plans against division opponents in his 2.5, almost 3 years now of defensive coordinating with the Green Bay Packers. He's had good plans against Justin Fields. He's had good plans against Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff. And in fact, the Thursday night game this year, one of the biggest problems was that the Packers offense couldn't do anything. They kept turning the ball over. And yes, that Lions team gashed them. But the Bears can gash the Packers on the ground. Their defense is playing really good football. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about this matchup. But this is what you play for, guys. And to have it come again, this game was full circle for the offense. Now this can be full circle for your team. Week 1, you come out and you say, we are going to be better than the league thinks we are, than the gamblers think we are, than the sports media public think we are. And in October, it didn't look like that was going to be the case. Now, if you beat that same team in week 18 at home, a team that is going to get rid of their quarterback, they're going to draft a new one. They're going to kickstart this rebuild. And if they don't, they're dumb. But they might. They might handle it that way. This is what you play for. And it would be the most fitting way for this season to end, the overachievement, the evolution of this team. And to just say, look, they're better offensively than last year's team. Jordan Love has outpaced Aaron Rodgers from 2022, and it's not close. And so now to put a bow on it by saying they're also going to outperform as a team that 2022 team, the last Aaron Rodgers team, to do it against a team that Aaron Rodgers has owned. No one's taking Chicago lightly. That's not what this is about. This is about the narrative and the power of that to say, this is the perfect opportunity, not because the Bears are some pushovers, but because of all of the work that's being done here from a narrative standpoint. It's just beautiful. It doesn't ultimately matter on the game, but it is a wonderful arc to look at here. The growth that this team has shown, it is remarkable. It is incredible what this offense has been able to do. I have to go back to it. 33 points, 6.5 yards per play, 470 yards of offense, 8.6 yards per pass, 4.5 yards per rush. And the only turnover coming on special teams, womp womp. In a must-win game against an elite defense. And now you have your season at home against your bitter division rival. How could this end any other way for the Green Bay Packers? How? This is the perfect chance for them, the perfect showcase for them, win or lose. Just because it's a perfect showcase doesn't mean they're going to win. This is the perfect opportunity for them to bring this season full circle. And it's going to be much tougher this time around. And it should be. So you show the growth, the evolution of your team from the first Vikings game to the second Vikings game. The first Lions game to the second Lions game. Packers came out and put it on. Two teams that put it on them the first time around. Now the Packers go from the hunter to the hunted. The Bears had it put on them by the Packers in week 1, but now it's the second time around. The Packers, you think, have a fitting plan? Okay, but now the Bears are coming, going, we want to spoil your season. Can Jordan Love handle it differently than Aaron Rodgers did? Because I will always believe that was a choke. That was a choke. Aaron Rodgers choked that game. Here's a chance for Jordan Love to put it on the table and say, I can be something else. I can be more than you've seen already. And I can't wait. I can't wait. All right. Happy New Year to everyone. Thanks for those of you who have come and hung out with us on our stream. We are a little less than 5 minutes to midnight, East Coast time. Lambeau peeps, you've got another hour to get your drinks in, your champagne. Go enjoy it. Cheers to you. Thanks to everyone who has made Locked On Packers part of their 2023. Let's make 2024 even better. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And thanks to everyone hanging out with us. Monster stream right now. Over 1,000 people here on New Year's Eve hanging out with us. Happy New Year. And in 2024, we will always be staying Locked On Packers.